Dear students, welcome to this lecture on conflict resolution model by Joseph Montville. This model is a powerful tool for understanding and resolving conflicts in a variety of contexts. It provides a comprehensive framework for understanding the dynamics of conflict and how to effectively manage it. In today's lecture, we will explore meaning of conflict, discuss conflict resolution mechanism, delve into Montville's conflict resolution model, including its core principles, strategies, and techniques. Examine the model's strength and limitations. Thus, by the end of this lecture, you will have a better understanding of how to use the conflict resolution model to effectively and efficiently resolve conflicts. Let us begin with an introduction. Conflict is an unavoidable part of human life, and how we choose to address it can have a profound impact on our lives. In the 20th century, we saw destructive conflicts on an unprecedented scale, but we also saw significant advances in peacemaking. In 1957, Kent Boulding, Anatole Rappaport, and Herbert Kalman founded the Journal of Conflict Resolution, which provided a platform for the development of theories on conflict resolution. Rappaport, a Russian-born American mathematical psychologist, used game theory to approach conflict resolution, while Johann Galtung, a sociologist, founded the Journal of Peace Research in 1964. Galtung introduced a broader notion of violence, which included security and identity, and other theorists such as Roger Fisher, William O'Ree, Joseph Montville, and John Burton contributed to the development of conflict resolution theories further. Today, conflict resolution is an important field of study, and its theories can be of immense significance in the contemporary international political landscape, where the powerful often resort to force. Conflict resolution theories provide an alternative to this coercive machinery and can help us to foster peaceful change. Before I move to discuss and explain more about conflict resolution theories, let us first try to understand the meaning of two important concepts related to the topic of this lecture, conflict and conflict resolution. And let me begin by defining the concept of conflict. Conflict can be defined as a situation or condition in which two or more parties have incompatible goals or interests. This can manifest in a variety of ways, from physical violence and armed conflict to a clash of interests between interdependent parties. According to Michael Nicholson, a conflict arises when two parties wish to carry out acts that are mutually inconsistent, such as when both parties want to stay together, but one wants to go to the cinema and the other wants to stay at home. Adam Curl defines conflict as any situation where the potential development of one group is impeded by another. Additionally, Johann Galtung's school of thought argues that injustice and structural violence can be seen as conflicts, even in the absence of physical violence and confrontation. Conflict can begin when some social or political change leads to a potential dispute or clash of interests within a society or the international system. This latent conflict can lead to the formation of organized parties or the adoption of the dispute by existing parties. When parties perceive that they are in conflict and the goals they are pursuing are incompatible, overt conflict can occur, potentially leading to the use of violence and armed conflict or resolution of differences and settlement of the dispute through other peaceful or diplomatic means. Now, coming to the term conflict resolution mechanism. Conflict resolution theorists emphasize the importance of intervention by skilled yet impartial third parties working outside of the official capacity to encourage new perspectives and foster healthier relationships. They strive to uncover the underlying causes of the conflict and identifying innovative solutions that the parties may have overlooked due to their dedication to their entrenched positions. Conflict resolution is about how parties can transition from zero-sum destructive patterns of conflict to positive-sum constructive outcomes. The goal is to create conflict resolution processes that are both acceptable to the parties in dispute and effective in resolving the conflict. The term conflict resolution is used in two senses, normative and descriptive. In the normative sense, conflict resolution can be defined as a change in a situation that removes a perceived conflict in a manner that is acceptable to all parties to the dispute. A peaceful resolution is the achievement of such a resolution without violence, and a just resolution is one that is fair to both or all parties. In the descriptive sense, conflict resolution is often used to mean the way a conflict ends, irrespective of whether all the parties find the outcome acceptable. A wider term is certainly needed since many conflicts end in outcomes that fail to satisfy one or both of the parties. In the broader sense, conflict resolution would include outcomes that end the conflict by coercive or non-coercive means. Nevertheless, in both senses, conflict resolution essentially means a change in the situation which removes the underlying source of this dispute. This may come about through the agreement of the parties, but it may also happen through a change in relationships between them, or through the dissolution and replacement of the original parties. Now let us come to the main component of this lecture, which is conflict resolution model by Joseph Montville. Joseph Montville, a renowned former diplomat, US State Department official, and academic, is renowned for his significant contributions to the field of conflict studies. During the Cold War, he was instrumental in reducing tensions between the United States and the former Soviet Union. His theory and conflict resolution model, Track to Diplomacy, has been widely praised by academics and peace activists around the world. Montville has also been active in South Asia, introducing his Track to Diplomacy mechanism to non-Western societies. Joseph Montville defines Track to Diplomacy as an unofficial, informal interaction between the members of adversary groups or nations aiming to develop strategies, influence public opinion, and organize human and material resources in ways that might help resolve their conflict. This approach is based on the seminal work of John Burton and Herbert Kalman and is rooted in many social psychological assumptions and expectations. The term Track to Diplomacy was first introduced by William D. Davidson and Joseph Montville in a jointly written article entitled Foreign Policy According to Freud, published in a periodical Foreign Policy in winter of 1981-82. While describing the Track to Diplomacy, the authors have referred to it as an asset, a tool, and an aid to support the Track 1 or official diplomacy. Montville describes the coining of the term Track to Diplomacy as a quasi-historical movement. While talking about the origin of this term, he says, and I quote, "I was asked to describe what I felt the meeting was about, and I came up with the term Track to Diplomacy on about 5 minutes' notice. My response was, I guess I could call what you are doing Track to Diplomacy, the unofficial kind of dialogue, and what I do is Track 1 diplomacy," unquote. In 1987, in another article, Joseph Montville further expounded on Track to Diplomacy about the conflict resolution mechanism. In this particular article, Montville described Track 2 as an unofficial, informal, interaction between members of adversary groups or nations to develop strategies to influence public opinion and organize human and material resources in ways that might help to resolve their conflict. It's a process designed to assist official leaders to fix or, in the first instance, managing conflicts by exploring possible solutions out of the public view and without the requirements of formal negotiation or bargaining for advantage. Track 2 diplomacy seeks political formulas or scenarios that might satisfy the parties' basic security and esteem needs in a particular dispute. On its more general level, it aims to promote an environment in a political community through the education of the public opinion that would make it safer for political leaders to take risks for peace. While describing the history behind devising the term, Montville said that in the beginning there was no specific aim or purpose associated with the term Track 2 diplomacy. Montville noted that if official diplomacy might be called Track 1, then unofficial attempts to resolve differences and disputes might be called Track 2. However, the term should not imply that such discussions are a form of traditional diplomacy or replace formal diplomatic channels. With infrequent exceptions, practitioners of Track 2 diplomacy are not formal diplomats. The title only belongs to those who officially represent their countries. Still, at a nascent stage, as an example of Track 2 diplomacy, Montville cited President Richard Nixon's ping-pong gambit to warm the atmosphere for the formal Track 1 diplomacy to pursue the dramatic opening to China. Montville identified three interdependent processes that constitute Track 2 diplomacy. First process consists of small, facilitated problem-solving workshops or seminars which bring together the leaders of conflicting groups or nations or their representatives to develop personal relationships, understand each other's perspective, and develop joint strategies for dealing with the conflict as a shared problem. The second process is to influence public opinion to reduce the sense of victimhood and rehumanize the image of adversary, to make it safe for political leaders to take positive steps towards resolving the conflict. The third process is cooperative economic development, which provides incentives, institutional support, and continuity to the political and psychological function. Montville argues that collaborative economic activities offer the prospect of growth, the enhancement of individual well-being, and a measure of stability for families and communities who have suffered significant personal loss and endured chronic instability for groups and nations in the conflict. Typically, Track 2 diplomacy involves problem-solving workshops sponsored by non-governmental organizations, attended by invited interested individuals with influence in their respective governments. Generally, attendees include former top officials acting in an unofficial capacity, such as former President Jimmy Carter or former Secretary of Defense William Perry, who participated in talks with counterparts from North Korea before taking any official position in the government. They also include officials acting in an unofficial capacity. However, it must be understood that Track 2 diplomacy is in no way a substitute for the official, formal Track 1 government-to-government, leader-to-leader relationships. It's a process to assist official leadership by compensating for constraints imposed upon them by the psychologically understandable need for the leaders to be strong, very indomitable in the face of enemy. The structural and conceptual framework of Track 2 diplomacy expanded and explored to encompass some new developments in the post-Cold War era. Throughout the 1990s, the concept received a significant impetus from many scholars and practitioners and applied it as a conflict resolution model to address entrenched contemporary conflicts such as the Israel-Palestine problem, Northern Ireland issue, crisis between the India-Pakistan, etc. This was all about the track to diplomacy as a conflict resolution model provided by Joseph Montville. Now I will come to the another section of the current lecture, which is about the significance of track to diplomacy as a conflict resolution model. The theory of track to diplomacy has significantly contributed to both the theory and practice of conflict resolution processes across the world. This is how, in contemporary times, the management of interstate and intrastate relations involves several new forms of diplomacy in which multilateral and non-state agencies, political elites and formal diplomats, think tanks, NGOs, academic research institutes and various other organizations have come to play an extensive role to promote peace between and among the adversary groups while applying track to diplomacy model. According to the 2007 report by the Charity Navigator, a US-based organization, 136 US-based private organizations are working in international peace and security sector. The Berghoff Research Center for Constructive Conflict Management listed 350 NGOs engaged in peace building work across the globe. The development of track to diplomacy model has emerged in recognition that individuals and groups other than formal diplomats can also play a significant role in facilitating peace and dialogue among parties to a conflict. Scholars and practitioners have different views and opinions about the role that track to processes can play in inter and intrastate conflicts. Some scholars have commended the concept and its practice primarily because of its autonomous status and described it as an extension of official diplomacy. Harold Sanders, an active participant in the Camp David Accord and the Egyptian-Israeli peace treaty, emphasizes that it is possible to achieve genuine mutual understanding in a non-official dialogue where participants act like human beings than in official exchanges where the persons involved often speak as though they are the titles they hold. On the other hand, many scholars and analysts describe the track to process as an exercise to test out an idea, a trial balloon that can be renounced in case of requirement. However, many scholars expressed some serious concerns about it. They believe that it is quite dangerous to have private citizens interfering in official government matters as it tends to raise unrealistic expectations, develop misunderstanding regarding the government's negotiation position, or create resistance to the negotiation. Yet most scholars and practitioners worldwide have a considerable agreement that the track to process is a critical tool to reduce and resolve inter and intrastate conflict. According to them, the process of track to diplomacy helps to break down the adverse stereotypes and generalization of the other side typically created through textbooks, cinemas, media, and other means. According to Herbert C. Kellman, although international conflicts typically result from conflicts of interest and ideological differences, psychological factors also contribute to the escalation and perpetuation of conflict by creating barriers to the occurrence and perception of change. Overcoming psychological barriers does not resolve conflict, and political solutions must still be negotiated at the political level through political processes. Nevertheless, when psychological barriers are removed or reduced in importance, the contending parties generate new possibilities for negotiations. Consequently, rigid postulations and stances rooted in history no longer bar the prospect of resolving an issue. In this context, track to diplomacy plays a significant role in removing the psychological barrier between the conflicting parties. Track to diplomacy creates a conducive atmosphere at the public level for track 1 diplomats and governments to take risks and move beyond traditional positions. It broadens and deepens the process of peacemaking by addressing underlying psychological issues shared by members of different groups and building new and creative relationships among socially and politically engaged individuals and their contributions. This psychology and relational work can help change the political atmosphere at a popular level while also contributing new proposals and options for the consideration of track 1 diplomats. Moreover, track 2 diplomacy has allowed the business fraternity to establish independent business networking to promote regional trade and other economic activities over the years. Track 2 diplomacy acts as an agent of socialization. In socialization, outside experts, mostly from Western countries and institutions, organize forums to teach regional actors security concepts based on experiences from their region. Here, the target is a group of influential policy elites who have access to policy makers within the state machinery. The purpose is to shape their thinking process vis-a-vis regional security matters, the proliferation of nuclear arms issue, etc. Now, let us discuss some of the limitations of this model. Despite all the positive aspects and outcomes, the theory has certain limitations. Scholars and academics have raised certain questions and queries about the mechanism of communication between official and non-official diplomats. They have also shown concerns over the overwhelming elite participation in these non-official dialogues. In fact, at times, it has been dubbed as an elite exercise, where the mass representation is extremely low. Critics say that these elite groups do not have any mechanism to interact with ordinary people. As a result, they are little aware of the ground realities. Furthermore, many people, including track 1 diplomats, criticize track 2 diplomacy as they believe that it lacks the skill and expertise required to deal with sensitive issues, particularly those which involve foreign countries. For instance, in the India-Pakistan context, a lot of people and diplomats criticize the track 2 initiatives because, according to them, these track 2 participants cannot understand the sensitivities of various issues such as Kashmir, Siachen Glacier, or terrorism. Many scholars and academics believe that government officials will never completely shed their official positions of being part of the state machinery, even if they are participating in their private capacity. Thus, it becomes a severe hurdle in the progress of these dialogue processes. It's also being said that track 2 diplomacy is dependent on track 1 relations. When political atmosphere is conducive between the parties to the conflict, it is quite easy to organize track 2 activities. If the situation or bilateral relations are tense, it becomes difficult to conduct track 2 meetings. For example, post 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks, the diplomatic relations between India and Pakistan have largely remained tense. As a result, all unofficial diplomatic ventures, including track 2, could not occur for a pretty long time after the incident. Similarly, because of the escalation in the violence from 2000 onwards, all track 2 dialogues between Israel and Palestine were cancelled or postponed. However, despite all these limitations and constraints, track 2 emerged as a new kind of peace-building endeavor that focuses on the capacity of citizens rather than states to engage in peace-building. It is seen as one of the significant contributors to peace-building, particularly in some of the problematic situations like the Israel-Palestine conflict, Ireland, and India-Pakistan. To conclude this lecture, track 2 diplomacy as a conflict resolution approach has both strengths and weaknesses. The weakness obviously limit the utility of the approach, but its strengths still provide hope in the name of peace and social harmony. It has been argued that the greatest value that track 2 diplomacy can create is to help the parties in conflict to keep alive a sense of possibility, the belief that a negotiated solution remains within the parties' reach. The approach has played an important role in several conflict zones to reduce the differences and reach a mutual consensus among and between the parties to a dispute. Over the years, it has attained a lot of significance as a conflict resolution tool to achieve peace. As a result, in the last few decades, there has been an obvious increase in the number of track 2 processes and other citizen-led peace initiatives. Dear students, it was all about today's lecture regarding conflict resolution model by Joseph Montville. Hope you have understood it well. See you next time with a new topic. Till then, take care and goodbye.